Welcome back to Your Ag Empire, where we roll up our sleeves, dig in the dirt, and uncover the secret to success in the world of agriculture. I'm your host, Jonathan Harrelson, a Texas farmer and rancher, farm risk consultant, and commodity coach. New episodes drop on Wednesdays on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, and we'd be honored to have you as a subscriber. Welcome to the podcast, Colby and Phallyn. Can you guys share your journey of starting Four Kings Ranch from scratch? I mean, without a legacy operation to build upon, you guys cook this dream up like from scratch. We're gonna ranch.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild idea in today's world and economy and price of land, price of equipment, the whole deal. It's something, I grew up around cattle. I was an FFA kid, but I was a sports guy. I was raised by a coach, played sports in college, didn't go to college for ag, but I loved it. My grandma's had a big place, but she's still alive. She's 99. So yet to inherit anything, and here I am. I'll be in my mid 40s by the time I might inherit some land. And, Phallyn and I we're really at a crossroads. We've been married. We lived in town. I had an oil field career I've been in since college. She was medical sales. It's kind of like, well, what are we going to do? We live in a really pristine part of Oklahoma. Are we going to live at the lake? Or always kind of like the country, I lived in town and felt like a caged animal, cutting my grass with scissors out there,
I understand.
Didn't have enough to do. And we started looking and found a place in the Arkansas River bottoms over here near Weber's Falls and bought it. And now what do we do?
We bought a forest.
And this is old
jungle.
old row crop
Absolutely.
land that had been in probate for years, and it finally got sold, and we bought a lot of work.
Absolutely.
We got it cheap back then. If I told you the price, people probably fall down now with land prices, but still yet, we got it. We started fixing it, and
it was a marathon. It was not a race because there was so much. Because when I say we bought a jungle, it literally was
scrubbed up,
almost 100% wooded. I mean, it was.
Hey, I feel you there because we did the same thing. We bought a project, and now I've got a question for you because I've had this conversation with my wife over and over again. If I buy again, I'm buying one that's ready to go.
Absolutely. Yes.
I won't be able to unload the cattle. It was great. Built a lot of equity quick.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'm young enough now to start that over.
No.
We would not. I mean, like you said, we were younger, and I mean, we enjoy working together.
Sure.
I mean, it's work, right? But to us, it's not work whenever you love it. And our relationship grew, and even in that, like being newly married and bought this ranch and, working together and trying to get it to where we want it to be. But now, no, next go around. No.
Yeah. We'll probably get a little more turnkey type deal.
We won't go down that road
We
again.
owned it for over almost over a year and a half before we ever built a house and moved down here. So I was driving 30 minutes one way to come work, and we had cows down here and black cows at the time. And,
Wait a minute.
are you going to, well, with that commercial we did, and that's easy to come by and,
sure.
But at the same time, there's still that thought of wanting to be a registered seed stock guy, just because of the sheer number and volume you need in that commercial world. It's a bunch. So, but anyway, the buying it and basically starting from scratch and clearing lots and lots of scrub. Luckily, I'm a pretty good equipment operator. I have thousands of hours on equipment out there. But you kind of look at it like, boy, I've really come a long ways. And you're like, well, I got a lot more to do. In addition to our day jobs and all that stuff. So,
And then you look at the financial side of it and you're thinking,
yeah,
is this a wise investment?
right. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably worth 3 or 4 times what it was when we bought it, but still, yeah, it's, I probably wouldn't ever want to add up the receipts,
Sure.
type deal.
Absolutely. So now what inspired you to choose the Braunvieh cattle? And what kind of challenges have you had to face, working with commercial, ranchers on the benefits of utilizing, your bulls? I mean, this is an Angus based society that we're in right now.
100%, 100%. And all the quote unquote other breeds see that challenge, except maybe, Sim Angus, your black semis. But I'm a researcher by nature, and a lot of reading on different breed types and girts and different, things. I looked at Beef Masters, the whole deal, and saw an American Rancher episode on Braunvieh. I had seen Braunvieh cows and just really didn't know what I was looking at, throughout my life. And saw an American Rancher, and I was like, I'll be dang, look at these. And I start looking up websites. And at the time, this is probably 2012, 13, because I guess this would be our 10th, 11th year in the breed. We get some semen. I contact a breeder in Kansas, go up there and look around. I was like, golly, look at these cows, and that's really the breed's known for females. And these cows are on the Flint Hills, and I mean, just roly-poly fat and milk leaking out of them, and big old calves. And, that particular episode kind of focused on, the what they call the Braunvieh beef builder, the mix with Angus or another breed. And so we bought semen, and we go down here and we plug it in some black commercials at the place. And before they can hit the ground, we're at, consignment sales, and we start hodgepodge and, together this herd. And that's a challenge in this breed is being able to get your hands on a big group of cows.
Sure.
And we kind of got going from that. And, anybody that wants to just out of the blue say, I want to be a rancher and stuff, you're going to need a whole bunch of money. And you're going to have a lot of fortitude. And the cattle deal is not, especially seed stock, you're not going to be making money for a while. So you got to be able to float it, from building the herd to
from start to actually, making some decent revenue. I mean, what do you think for guys out there that are thinking, man, the grass is greener over there on the seed stock side? From the inception of the idea to buying those cattle at those sales to actually generating revenue, what do you
seeing it 4 or 5 years?
4 or 5.
Yeah, I say at least.
I get that question all the time. Yeah. Everybody's saying, "Hey, the seed stock guy's getting rich," and I know there's struggles there too.
There is an ebb and flow of all of it. I'd say as a whole, the seed stock people like us probably don't see the dips quite as hard, as maybe the commercial. We see, there's still dips. There's going to be, maybe not as hard, but that first 4 or 5 years is tough. One, getting a consistent, what are we as Four Kings? What are we producing? Are we doing black Braunviehs? Are we doing traditional full blood? And, backtrack a little bit. Braunvieh is one of the few breeds that has a full blood, 100% Swiss origin. There's never been anything else. There's nothing in the woodpile. And what do you want to do? and that was kind of a challenge. We went with the darker hided initially, and we go to the consignment sales and we don't make what these established guys make, nor should we. Who are we? And that's something you got to deal with as a new producer and new seed stock guy. And we really had to go modern to really start making money. And I say modern, I mean science. Had to really wrap our arms around DNA, genomics, genomic testing, and performance testing. And there was a guy in our breed, and he was our president at one time. He was up the chain with what was then GrowSafe, the feed stations that records every ounce of water they drink a day and partial body weights, and they were getting feed efficiency in addition to your traditional average daily gain numbers. And we sent a set of bulls up to Nevada, Missouri, and they did real good. And we had top Braunviehs out of that deal. But they sold okay, probably not for what we had, but they sold okay. But I'd probably say really adapting to the modern, way of cattle with genomics and testing, probably fast forwarded us the fastest, because we took all that subjective opinion of our animals out. I mean, we sure enough had hard facts. I mean, the genomics say they carry these genes, they should flesh well, they should handle stress well, and we know they gain and we know they're efficient. So when we ask a price to a breeder, he'd be like, well, I don't know, man, you hadn't been in this game too long. I was like, well, I get that, but this paper says, and this says that, so that probably moved us the fastest in the beginning, but we still weren't there.
Sure.
And there were some times when you get down on yourself, you're like, gosh, I don't know about this deal. When's it going to happen? And it's not overnight. And then all of a sudden you're advertising hard and this and that. And then you're not advertising because people call and want bulls, repeat customers. And
then you don't have the animals to sell.
Right. Yeah.
That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. You can't.
It's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem.
It's growing pains.
Then we need to buy more river ground and clear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Which is kind of, I mean, we didn't buy more ground, but we ended up buying,
leasing more and this and that. And we got another piece, but really that's kind of the deal as a seed stock, coming up, and you saying you're a seed stock guy. I'm sure you felt some of that in the beginning.
Oh yeah.
It's tough. You go to these sales and you see these guys that are topping them. And, I look at Phallyn and I'm like, that needs to be us, that's gotta be us, someday if we want to stick with this.
I know it. That's the biggest struggle, I think, is it's all reputation, and I've seen that with as many, purebred breeders we have that are raising Angus. I mean, you go to one sell and you can find the same genetics at a small producer.
Yep.
He's selling his bulls for 3,500 and the big guy's selling them for 10.
Yep.
And it is a struggle. It is a struggle.
Yeah.
Now, I think as an industry, we've kind of boxed ourselves in, and Angus has done a great job marketing.
100%.
You're a well-studied guy on cattle, and I mean, you've obviously gone a different path because you've researched this. Now, I want to kind of talk a little bit about the hybrid cattle, and kind of what you see as the future of the industry, and how do they fit in to the market that we have now?
Yeah. And to backtrack a little bit on that Angus deal, you say reputation and why you choose a breed and maybe why you chose your breed. And it's a reputation deal, it probably is, no matter how much money we could throw at it, we're a blip on the radar in that big Angus game. These guys been in it forever. And but that kind of incorporates this hybrid deal. I'll be the first to admit there is not one single breed that's got the answer. There's not. We all have our own traits. that set us apart and make us good, maybe in a niche market, but to do it all, no. And I think that's where the hybrid really plays a big part. The you know what, what do you say, 95% of our bulls go to commercial guys?
Yes.
I'd say so, yeah. So these guys don't care if I have a 7/8 Braunvieh as opposed to, we go by percentages now, but 86 and up, purebred, and we do that to knock the horns off and turn them colors.
Sure.
And we sent you some pictures to kind of showcase. We have blacks, we have whites. Our breed's not really, it has a recessive color trait, so we can turn them colors easy, which helps us in the hybrid game. But all that being said, this commercial dude, he don't care that bull's 7/8 because he's jet black, but he still looks like a Braunvieh. He's got big bone set, he's got big feet, and this and that. So we started seeing that it's probably easier to sell 7/8 and 3/4 blood to these commercial guys because there's still enough in there maternal. If they retain any heifers, Braunvieh are known for milk.
They're going to have the good udder.
They're going to have the good udder. They're going to have the feet. It's muddy where we live, and I will say we don't have feet problems. So that's a testament to them. But you look at your Gelvies and stuff, your balancers and stuff like that. What's that, a 5/8, and those things sell like hotcakes because they're black.
Sure.
As much as we may want to push back on that black hide deal, it's a real thing. So either dig your heels in and go broke, or you're going to have to conform a little bit. And
you got to figure out where you fit in.
Yeah, where you fit. And for us, hybrid is I think it's in all breeds, not just us by itself. Sure. It's a deal.
Well, everybody in the industry chased low birth weight Angus bulls forever.
100%.
And, and then they wonder why they're weaning 515 pound calves and, talking to their neighbor that's got some kind of a hybrid cross going on that, he's getting 6.5, sometimes even 7. I've seen some calves that have done really well. Just you go to looking at the growth traits on some of these breeds, and it's been interesting to see some of the hybrids. What set of base cows have you seen the best results out of some of your commercial bull, your bull buyers that are raising, just commercial calves?
Sure. And like you said, hybrid vigor it's a hot term, but it is a real thing.
Sure.
Our base, it probably what launched us as a ranch the fastest is we imported a pot load of cattle out of Canada, and they came from the original stuff that came in. Canada had them first in the late 60s. The U.S. got Braunviehs in 83, 84. And this guy built a tremendous herd up there in Alberta out of the original import cows, and he used those on the hybrid deal to make a high-end beef breed that he sells meat all across North America. But he was going from the seed stock commercial to hybrid Braunvieh beef cattle, and we had the opportunity to pick up all these heifers of his, and we jumped on it, and that gave us for the first time a really set look of what this offspring looked like, whether we went with purebred or full blood. And these girls are full blood, the majority of them. And they milk, they got good feet, and they're a bigger frame cow, which I'm perfectly fine with the bigger frame cow because we can moderate it in that breeding. And these full bloods are traditional. They're dehorned, but they have horns. And we were able to put either Angus bull or homo polled black Braunvieh bull, and we can slick the horns off and turn them colors in one generation from a traditional brown with a ring to a really dark chocolate. And then in that next go around, we can take them down a step in blood and we can be black. And I'd say, you ask what cows, that's our building block. That is the base layer of the building right there, is those full bloods. And what makes Braunvieh. And then we can kind of expound from there, from a color standpoint, marbling. Braunviehs are, the one thing they always pass on is yield. They're high yielding cattle with moderate marbling. The Angus are good marblers. Mm-hmm. So that mix of the two breeds makes an exceptional terminal animal. And like I said, we get the color that everybody's looking for, and they're polled, and it's pretty good combination.
Well, I did some snooping around, and I looked on the Braunvieh sire catalog, and you guys have a bull Pinto, I believe. And
Black
man,
Pinto.
It's quite an animal.
that guy looked like he could fit on anything. I mean, really.
Low birth weight. We used a 3/4 white Braunvieh female that was a show heifer, and we won everywhere with her. And
I wouldn't have guessed that.
and it was her first calf, and we stuck her with a low birth weight Angus bull, a good one, and she spit out this black calf. And he's 57 really pounds, 57 pounds, and I've never seen anything grow like that. And we've got some. I love raising bulls. Like, that's my deal. If we get good females, but I really get into the bull deal. And
I mean, his muscle conformation looked phenomenal.
Yeah,
he's a cool looking.
Curb appeal. He's clean fronted, the whole deal. Looks very Angus, except he's got big feet and big bones, and he went down to Fort Worth, and we knocked him out of the park down there with him. And but that's what we can do, and really in 2 breedings, we can be there. And, we get guys come look at the bullpen, and they're like, he's by himself over there. And I'm like, how about this guy?
Sure.
Yeah. How much is he? It's a bunch. It's a bunch, But,
you're scared to price him.
Yeah. But, one of them bulls.
We need some offspring from him first.
One of them bulls that can lick a rock and gain weight, and it's that hybrid deal. And he comes from a really good cow line. But, that goes back to, we as Braunvieh breeders, we don't have all the answers. I don't think the Angus do. I don't think Sim, I don't think anybody does. Mm-hmm. So that type of hybrid should be very, very sought after in the commercial world. What's this guy care that's got a bunch of black baldies out in the pasture? You kick him out there, because he's going to throw you some stout black calves.
He will. You could definitely tell that.
Yeah. 100%, and how stout the commercial market is right now. We see all these record prices and stuff like that. So,
well, and that's the thing. I think, ranchers, a lot of times everybody chased, carcass merit, carcass traits, and that's great. It's absolutely great. But if you're the guy that's going to dump them at the sell barn, or you're going to put a couple loads together and send to a feed yard that they're going to buy them from you, at the end of the day, you need pounds on the ground. That's the only thing you're getting paid from. And I think we as an industry have kind of left the cow-calf guy in the dust, when it comes to selection. And we've chosen all these things that whoever's the last man that owns it, it's the one that's going to get the benefit of the way that we've kind of marketed bulls across. Mm-hmm. And it's all breeds, really. And so, like, I want something that's going to grow. And I don't really want to retain ownership all the way through. I want to be able to cash flow the cow herd, move on. If I need to buy a set of calves to run some yearlings or do something, of that nature, I'll do that afterwards. But I don't need to own. I don't need to own the grass, own the cows, own everything. And I think sometimes that gets us in a bind when we try to do it all.
Yeah,
it does. Single trait selection and get you in a bind too.
Absolutely.
If you go at it on a large scale, I think you can single trait, a bloodline and kind of get it lined out. But if you single trade a whole herd, you're going to be in a hurt and in a real hurry. But yeah, pounds on the ground. We efficiency tested, and we're really big on efficiency testing bulls early, and we figured out what lines are efficient, and now we're growing a lot of these bulls just traditional in a yard, average daily gain deal, because our customers ultimately want, like you said, pounds. And if I got an real efficient bull and he's 3.5 pounds a day, but I got one that makes the ground shake and he gained 4.8 a day, he's buying that one. Period. For thousands of extra dollars.
Sure. I totally agree. I mean, if I can get that kind of gain, because we typically wean our cattle and we'll put them on wheat pasture and then we'll market them, as big yearlings and that's what I'm looking for. I want something. I want to pull an 8.5 or 900 pounder off and move them to the next phase.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So you guys, you're in the purebred business. So you're sitting here, you're raising your seed stock guy, you're raising these cattle, you're selling bulls. I'm sure you're probably selling some females.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I also looked on your website for Four Kings. You guys are selling beef also.
That is correct.
We do.
So you ventured down this.
Not on purpose. Not on purpose.
How did this accident start?
It came to feeding steers, feeding some of our steers and people buying a side or a whole beef here and there. And
they really like it.
And this is different, it's really good, and I was like, yeah, I mean, and they don't ever leave,
we can try it. We can try a couple.
We feed them good and this and that. So we kind of started dabbling with it, and then the demand went up.
Sure.
And then the next deal was like, we need a big walk-in cooler. So we get a big walk-in cooler. And we luckily have a good relationship with a kill plant, friends of ours, and close proximity to us. That helped.
Yeah.
And the pandemic probably made 4K beef what 4K beef is now.
Sure.
To the point that we had to ration people. It was fear.
Slow down
people were fear buying hamburger meat. I need 300 pounds. And I was like, do you really need 300 pounds of hamburger right now? That's what we cut them down to, 20 pounds at a time. Like you can live on 20 pounds, guys. Everybody needs some. The shelves were empty and ours were getting empty. Luckily we're able to kind of keep it filled with the relationship, like I said, with the kill plant.
Yes. They helped us out a lot.
It helped us a lot. And that kind of grew from individually selling to individuals to all the daycares in the area to restaurants.
Sure.
So there we go. We got a beef business on accident.
So walk us through, like, from pasture to plate.
Mm-hmm.
What is your, I guess, how do you guys emphasize sustainability? That's a buzzword we hear in our industry nowadays. And so, like, what does that actually mean to the consumer? Because like you guys, we feed out 4 to 6 a year, and then I'll just kind of keep adding to the pen as I get demand. And we just, that's the way we do it also. And you get a lot of questions as far as, are these raised with sustainability practices? What does that mean? What does that mean to 4K?
To us, sustainability, I think, is really, can we sustain this without, really, we're not subsidized. We're private, no subsidies. It comes from the ranch. Everything, we don't go buy stockers or stuff off wheat pasture and put them in the feed pens.
And sometimes it has to do with, is that calf going to make a bull? Or is he going to own up to our bull program of what we think that he can do and what he should be doing? And if he's not quite there, then we can cut him out and stick him in the steer pen and do just as well.
Not lose any, probably make as much money, ultimately. Mm-hmm. We're pretty honest with ourselves and our culling practices of bulls.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to just assembly line and bulls out there.
Sure.
So we got some steers in there that are pretty dang good. They probably make a lot of bulls for a lot of people, but
And afterwards, we're like, well, maybe we shouldn't have cut him, but I mean, he's going to eat just fine.
you probably get that deal in the weaning pen where you walk by it every day, and every other day you want to cut this calf. Like, God dang, I'm cutting him today, and then the next day you're not, and it's happened to where turns out to be some of the highest selling bulls we ever had, and I wanted to cut him half the time.
Sure.
But sustainable. We they're raised here on grass as much as we can. We grain in the wintertime. We have to. We can't. It's where we live. The grass is not stout enough. Probably where you're not, it's not either. But
we're real similar as far as the way our production practices are.
And we try to get grazing in the wintertime.
We tried some feed that we really liked, but it was almost 2 hours away.
Yeah.
Great mixture.
Locally grown and the whole deal.
You could tell the difference between our steers of when they were on that feed versus another feed that maybe is local. And it was not sustainable for us to continue to get that type of feed from so far away.
Yeah,
and so that is one thing that we did have to change about our program, and to be able to afford it is find some place that is closer. And so we were able to work with our local feed store and get a good ration where it's comparable.
Yeah.
It's not exact, but it's comparable.
Yeah. We could probably use more backgrounding acreage. It would help, but we do have good dirt where we're at. And we started planting sorghums and Sudans and wrapping it. So we're making essentially silage.
Absolutely.
So we're giving them a silage ration with grain and stuff that we raise here. So, it's really a closed loop system for the most part, outside of some of the grain we bring in from outside. So it's pretty sustainable for us. It helps our input costs. And then, all these source of origin, that's a hot term. You go to Whole Foods and, there's a lot, if we looked into it, the criteria of how far they can travel to the kill plant, how far they'll ever even in a trailer. And some of our stuff may only been in a trailer once, maybe if they were on one of the lease places, down the road here. That's the only time they've ever in their life. And then going to the kill plant, and that's it. So, as humane can be when you're eating an animal, I guess, we stay away from the implants. We don't do that stuff. We've got kids, and I don't really want my kids eating that stuff. And the whole antibiotic deal, we try to stay, as close to organic as we can. We're not quote unquote labeled organic, but essentially we are.
Yeah. Still try to follow some of the same criteria, just don't have that stamp.
Yeah.
I was curious about that because we dabbled down that whole all natural, had a third party verifier come out. We did that. And there was times that it worked out great. We were able to get premiums, but then there were times it was, the cost was the same. So for me looking at it, it wasn't, I couldn't justify it at the time. And so I backed out of that.
Our program's just not big enough. Like if our program was huge and we were supplying to Whole Foods or, a larger grocery store, then it might be worth it to be able to go through that process to get that stamp on it. But with where we're at and how many we feed out, it's just not our customers. It wasn't a requirement. It wasn't.
They didn't
really care.
The need for that. Well, what's that certification a year? 3,500. It's something like there.
I know that's what I was going to say. It was 3 to 4.
Yeah.
By the time you did it all.
It's a great program. We enjoy it, but we're enjoying what we have currently.
Yeah.
Hey, we're identifying problems in the industry. If the consumer, I know we had some cattle that, they were all naturals, and it was a situation at the time where, the all natural market, we actually finished these cattle and we couldn't sell them. There was no demand for all natural cattle.
Yeah.
But yet all we hear and all we get pushed is all these programs. And so I know when we go to market our beef, much like you guys, I'm sure, people do. They talk about the taste, and I mean, we know what we do.
Yep.
You know, we don't treat everything with antibiotics unless something does get sick.
Correct.
But it's not like we're out here just running
No,
around giving
pumping 'em.
everything shots for the
No,
sake of
yeah,
it.
pumping them, just because they're there, implanting them and this and that.
Yeah.
No. And, Fallon, and she can talk about this, that whole pandemic deal really, when the meat ran out, every guy that had a steer at his house was in the beef business. It really
Sure.
was. And in our state, you used to have to be USDA, to cross state lines and sell all this. And our legislator passed something where it could be state inspected. We still USDA because we will ship, internet or,
Everywhere.
domestically.
Yeah.
But she was worried. She's like, what are we going to do? I was like, well,
I mean, it just changes.
It takes a lot of money to feed these animals. I was like, just hang in there. We'll be standing at the end of it. And we were, when people started figuring out, golly, the money to get them to kill weight, and do they actually know what a good kill weight is, and et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of these people were selling quarters and halves and this and that. And when we got that freezer, it enabled us to sell individual. And that really changed what we do, because people either don't have a big enough freezer, or maybe more importantly that, don't have enough money. A side of beef is expensive.
Absolutely.
It's the initial cost is a bunch. If you look at it spread out over however many months, it's not, but it's still a bunch of money. And
we've let the grocery stores just finance us, is what we've done.
Absolutely.
Buying a little bit along the way.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So average income in our area, people don't have a lot of money. And if they can come buy 10 pounds of hamburger and 4 steaks for a special Friday night, we can do it,
Yeah.
And
that's what's important to us.
And that is important.
Absolutely.
To us. So
you found that niche market that you need to be in,
and we enjoy it. I mean, we enjoy to be able to provide the service to our local communities, because we know what they need and what they want. And I don't know, makes us happy that we can provide that for them.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's really neat.
Yeah.
So what lessons have you guys learned about entrepreneurship and legacy building through this experience with Four Kings and the 1684 venue resort?
Yeah, that's a bunch. Lessons.
That's a loaded question.
I don't want to be the wet blanket for these kids just getting out of ag school or wherever and thinking they're going to have them a big operation and it's going to be in a hurry. But you're probably not. There's going to have to be you're going to have to supplement that somehow. And her and I have been very lucky to have great jobs in the oil and gas industry, and her in the medical, and it would not exist without that, and we got some kids in college, Oklahoma State, that come do work here and build fence, and boy, we want to be like you someday. And I'm like, well, you better start making a bunch of money, bud. Like it's tough, and they come, don't come from the legacy. I mean, yeah, it's fulfilling at the end, but the lesson is it is daunting what you got to have, and
it's a lot of hard work and determination, and you can't quit. I mean, it's not made for everybody, and there's a reason for that,
Yeah.
But you got to be smart along the way and make good choices and pivot. Talking about 1684, we decided to pivot a little bit during the pandemic. We just didn't know what either one of our futures held for the oil and gas or the medical industry, really.
Sure.
And so we needed to pivot, and even with cattle, I mean, you just don't know. So we do have our hands in a lot of different things. He talks a lot about legacy and what we want to be known for and what we want to leave behind. And we think that our investment in our cattle and in 1684 is going to leave that legacy that we want to be left behind to be known for and for our kids. So
Awesome.
that's where we're focusing.
Good. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to create that lasting impact in the communities? I mean, where do they even start? How did you identify the needs that your community wanted and how you fit into that?
Like I said, it's tough for these kids coming up, but at the same time, I think you still have to be a dreamer some.
Mhm.
I've had these ideas in my head for a lot of years, and you kind of got to will it into existence. We did the ranch in 1684 and trial and tribulation in between, but I mean, you can do it. It is definitely achievable.
It is.
I think you
I,
can push through and get there.
I know I look back at when I started from scratch, just like you guys, and
Yeah.
you had some wild ideas and wrote it
Mhm.
down on a napkin, slid it across to my banker, and he just looked at me and said, did you add another zero on that? Are you sure that's what you need? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm positive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And it
so,
is.
yeah, I think wild ideas sometimes are good. And then, like you said, I think we talk about on this podcast and within our Empire Ag Elite group, we talk about grit. And when times are
Mhm.
tough,
Yeah.
like sometimes, like there is no option of curling up in the corner and somebody saving you. And
No, no. My cows really don't care if I had a bad day. They don't. It doesn't matter to them. They didn't care that I drove 4 hours yesterday back and forth to the office in Oklahoma City and did all my oil and gas stuff and came home. They were still hungry when I got back last night, and they didn't care it was raining. And I mean,
Still
you,
got to do.
you still got to do it,
Yeah.
and you see breeders, I'm sure you've seen these guys that come into the breed, guns blazing, and we're going to make money. And then they don't make money in the first 2 years. And they're like, man, this is crap. I'm selling all of it. But at the same time, you got to think to yourself, like, did you really go all in it, before you said it was a wash, and that's to that grit comment you made. I mean, it sucks sometimes. I have real good lights on all my equipment. I do. I got to.
hey, we have a rule now at the farm. I told the guys I threatened to take the lights off of our equipment because
Yeah.
that's the only time we knew how to run it was at night, and that
Yeah.
drove me
Yeah.
nuts. But it is, and I've talked to several young people here lately that have same situation. They're like, man, I want to be in your shoes. Like, if I started like you did, would it work? And I don't want to be that naysayer, but I
Right.
also, I mean, I'm a realist, so I'm looking at what I was able to. The cost of entry has doubled, well
Yes.
Yes.
over doubled, but the cash flow is not improved.
No.
Nope.
I mean, that's like I told that kid. I was like, man, you've got to be patient, work hard, save your
Yeah.
money, find an opportunity, and if you can jump in, jump in. But to do it exactly the way that I did, I don't think it would work today.
Yeah. Well, you gotta be honest with yourself and have those hard conversations with your partner and be willing to make changes and see what's in front of you and did I make the right decision or if I didn't, and then if you didn't make those changes,
Yeah.
you can't
Absolutely.
just keep going down the same path and
Yeah. And it can't be a money pit,
no.
where you're just burning cash into this agricultural dream.
You're almost there. Everybody talks about the lifestyle, which I
Hmm.
love. I absolutely love the
Oh, yeah.
lifestyle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I've told my wife, I'm like, I would sell it all. If I can't make money in ag, I'm selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too much work to not.
No,
It
I'm
is.
a little neurotic, and I'm loading feed and buying feed or during the winter. And, I've sold 2 or 3 bulls to somebody, and it's just, kind of like, that scene off of Hangover, when all the numbers going around. I'm like, these bulls paid for this much feed right now, like it really
Yeah.
does,
Yeah.
and I always like have this imaginary running total in my mind, like, okay, these paid for this much feed for these many months, they got to pay for themselves. They really do.
Yeah.
I know it.
We hauled a load of dark colored, really good backgrounded heifers just because prices were good, and we went down to market and we were the top of the average. They were sure enough good heifers.
Mm-hmm.
And same guy bought all of them. But, we could have held them. We kept feeding them heifers. And I was figuring it was probably costing us $300-400, what, a week to feed them things and to really make them look the part for replacements. And at some point you're like, or I can go to the sale barn right now and probably make as much as I would if I would hold on to these and keep marketing them, because
Sure.
get somebody to come buy a lot of them is tough. They're going to piecemeal you, cherry pick it and this and that. And that's, you got to weigh the pros and cons, and
Absolutely.
we can go flip these right now and make a pretty good check for the input we have. Or we could really market them to, you get that deal. You got bred heifers. I don't sell very many bred heifers. The amount of money to get them to that stage is a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially this market right now. I've talked to some guys, they've been buying, $2,300 to $2,400 bred heifers. Well, when you look at a lot of these big feeder heifers that are getting bought for $1,800, that's a whole lot of work, a whole lot of time.
Absolutely.
To have a heifer that's going to calve out in a month and a half, 2 months. I don't think that guy got paid, in my opinion.
No.
That feeder heifer, I mean, what? Let's see, you may get $500 in that calf. And that replacement, you probably got 13, let's do the math on that, and that's why I told her, I was like, I'm about to load the big trailer and we're going to the sell barn with these calves.
We had almost started like on that verge, and like we talked about, you got to have real conversations with yourself, because these were really good heifers that we really liked, and
it didn't
had
pencil
really
out.
good
It
genetics.
didn't pencil out though. It really didn't.
Sure.
And we had we probably hung on to them for a little too long than what we should have, but it was in that emotional, right? Like emotional, you don't want to, because you know how good they are, but also you got to know when to let go and just be done with it.
Yeah.
Move on.
Somebody's going to they'll never know that these are probably 90% Braunvieh calves because they're dark colored, but they'll be like, boy, these are good mamas. They'll never know.
Yeah.
They came from here, and I'm fine with it.
Fine.
It is what it is.
Phallyn, are you and Colby both equally in this operation? I mean, is just as much yours as it is his, or are you
Yes,
just
sir.
supporting his dream? That's I always find that interesting on how the spouses fit into this, and
Yeah, I mean, it's been equal since the beginning. I mean, when I told you, whenever we bought the place, we both knew how much work it was going to be. I mean, I grew up on a farm as well.
Yeah.
And we were both willing to put into the work. I mean, if he's out doing it, if he's at work, then I'm out doing it. I mean, it's got to be like that in order for it to work, even with the venue and everything else. I mean, it's a good partnership, good team effort.
She stepped back in probably the past year and a half with the venue deal. Like, she needed to be locked and loaded on that, and I get it. And she told me, she said, it's on you.
Sure.
Fine. I got big shoulders. I can do it. But, I did wake her up in the middle of the night last night. We had one born in a blowing sleet and rainstorm. And I said, we got to put it in the shower and get it warm right now. It's cold. And she did.
At 1:30, we're in the shower getting it warm from 88 degrees.
But in a pinch, she's still there, even with her other, venture.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for a sponsorship break. So we've got to thank our sponsor who's making this podcast available. And you're in luck because it's this guy. The Dirt is a monthly membership that includes a weekly commodity-focused email, market update calls, and commodity text alerts. Use podcast for 50% off your membership when you subscribe at youragempire.com/the dirt. We are back with Colby and Phallyn King. Guys, we've spent some time talking about the Four Kings Ranch. You've got the cattle operation. You've got the beef side of things. Let's talk a little bit about the balance of running that operation and the wedding venue, because we're the second half. We're going to talk a little bit about the extracurricular activities. What are some of those demands, I guess? How do you balance running both operations?
It's not easy by any means. You said she's been a lot more involved with that. In the construction of 1684, that's a little more on my side, moving, running big truck or equipment, stuff like that, more
Coordinating
design stuff. That's a little more me. And it's one of them deals, the cows might have to get fed in the dark that day. Some of those days are up there working, because it's not at the ranch. It's actually kind of north of here, from the river bottom to the mountain, low foothills of the mountains there, of the Ozarks. And we got 200 acres up there, and we've got the venue, and, people, what is 1684? 1684 is the year that this barn was constructed in Germany, that we imported from Germany.
Now, folks, I got to preface something, because I've looked it up.
Yeah.
And you've got to check this out. This is a phenomenal place. This is not your standard metal building up on a hill overlooking a lake. That's not what we're talking about here. So for you listeners out there, I want you to go check out the 1684 Venue Resort. Just Google it. You'll pop up. Check out the website. It's phenomenal. Go ahead and continue.
Thank you very much for that. We appreciate it.
Yeah. So our house here at the ranch has reclaimed stuff in it, from barns that I took down, to old mantle pieces from Revolutionary War period stuff in the northeast part of the U.S.
Uh-huh.
And this outfit out of Waco, Heritage Restorations, is kind of the king worldwide in these old barns and this stuff. And we have stuff from them in our house. And I, just for fun, I always look at available frames. And
sure,
I happened to come across this German barn on there, and I was like, well, I've never seen a German barn on this. And I get to reading about it, and I'm like, Phallyn, you got to see this thing. And she's like, well, that's cool. And originally, and this is how things pivot and change, we were wanting a meat market at some point.
Sure.
People are used to storefront, they're brainwashed to buy from the store. And I was like, well, we kind of need a meat market, but it's awfully cool just to sell meat in, maybe we could have multi-purpose. And so I sent them an email, and the Braunvieh is the German word for brown cow. That's what Braunvieh means in German, brown cow. Braun and Vieh is cow. Anyway, so I sent them an email and like, hey, we have Braunvieh cows, and it's the German word and this and that. We think it would be a really neat purpose for this building. And we get a reply back. They said, well, it's actually owned by a German lawyer who's a dual citizen.
Oh, wow.
And we get an email from them with the history of this thing. And I'm like, I read the history of it, and I was like, this is wild, Phallyn. She's like, what are we going to do? And I said, well, we're just going to buy it and figure it out. So we did. And
wow.
Yeah. And
So we did.
It went from
A meat market.
a dual purpose, like some gatherings, this, and she's like, this cannot be a meat
It's too
market,
beautiful
Colby.
to build it.
You're ridiculous. And I was like, you may be right.
That's funny. So I'm assuming, Colby, there was not like a financial analysis put together on this purchase. This was purely a gut,
No,
like we got to
no.
go.
We talk about emotional decisions.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams,
Field of
right there.
Dreams was really, kind of build it and they will come type thing.
That's funny.
And we went and toured the Heritage Place, the founder of it in Waco, and what they do with these. And they call them living structures. And he was like, these structures are living, and we're giving them a new purpose. And, his home was made of one, and they have a grits mill and blacksmith shops and this and that. And he showed us a venue that one of his kinfolk had built. And I was like, oh my gosh. The first thing you do when you walk in these is you go like that. You look straight up,
Yeah.
it's very cathedral like. And we met the German lawyer for the first time, Hans Walter. And they were sitting in shipping containers in a yard in Waco, and we couldn't get the locks off because of the sea spray coming over on the container ship. So we had to bolt cut them off. And then, it kind of opened it up, and, it's almost like the light hits you in the face. There's pictures of Phallyn kneeling down by these beams that are, like you can't see on my hands, but, as tall as her kneeling down in high cubes stacked to the ceiling with these old beams.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. And that's when we're
really
like,
feeling.
It's probably can't be a meat market at this point,
Probably not the best use.
So, we locked down, the building, got to agreement with them. And that agreement was for them to restore it. Anything that old is going to need restoration, just because somehow it made it through, Napoleon and the 100 Years War and 2 world wars. It was kind of geographically in a good place during World War II, a little bit south and east of Berlin. So it's kind of the line where the U.S. and Russians stopped. And, the Russians was scorched earth. So it made it through that war, and which is kind of cool. And it's, the history behind it.
It stood the whole time.
That's crazy.
Virgin forest too. They did dendrochronology on how old the wood was and this and that. And the forest it came out of was where Martin Luther walked through and come up with his thesis that near where he nailed it on the All Saints Church, the Protestant Revolution, just crazy amounts of history that you can't get here. You really can't, And I was like, this is, again, can't be a meat market. So we got it here. We got it to Oklahoma, and we're like, now we got to fix it. And trying to find Americans that have the skill in doing that is not great. There's people on the East Coast, but they wanted us to ship it to them,
Oh, yeah.
like, that's a lot more money. So, the German lawyer that we're now friends with, they found these guys called journeymen, which most people don't know what that means in the U.S. But journeymen come from German-speaking countries, and it's a 800-900-year-old tradition where, people that want to be masters in their craft, whether it be masons or carpenters or whatever, they go on a journey and they leave their home for a minimum of 3 years and 1 day, and they can't be married. They can't have debt, can't have children. So, and you can never go home during this period, and they can stay gone for even longer, but it'd be great if we did that in the U.S. that they learn how to be men. They really do. They have to survive.
Yeah.
They don't have phones. They have to hitchhike. They don't have cars, and they're very skilled at their trade. And we got them here.
No
and they
kidding.
wear these black suits and stuff like that. And you see a guy in a black suit, he's a carpenter. You see a guy in a gray suit, he's a mason. It's pretty common over there, and they're very trustworthy. They belong to like a guild, almost like a brotherhood type deal, and you're always in it. And those are the guys that fixed it, and they lived here on the ranch, at the cabin on the ranch.
That is awesome.
these guys came from everywhere in Germany, from all different walks of life, mostly urban.
Yeah.
They definitely never fed a cow before, but they did. They never shot a gun or went hunting and all, and they got to do it, and it was really cool.
Really
You know,
awesome
and
experience for
getting to,
them and for us
and
as
for
well.
us, yeah, and getting to see what Europeans think of Americans, which
Sure.
isn't great. I will tell you that, but they got here and they were like, this is cool. And the freedoms that we take for granted is astonishing. Like, you know, we're having a big bonfire at night, a big giant pushed up brush pile, and they're like, there's not going to be police here. I was like, no, there's no police. There's no law enforcement here. You know, things we take for granted, a big bonfire, or, you
Sure.
know, having a gun and shoot target practice or whatever. You know, only the rich own guns there. Just crazy things that really you step back as an American and be like, you got it kind of good, got it pretty good, you know.
So how long did they stay with you guys?
They came 3 months and they had to go back for a meeting, one of their biannual get-togethers for their association. And they came back for another 3. So they were there for 6, getting that ready. And then a couple more came back
For another 3 months.
for another 3 months to do some additional work on just, we had a bunch of extra stuff. You know,
Sure.
they built us an entrance with extra wood that you never know the difference. But it was pretty cool seeing guys that skilled at things, you know, a very old trade. And Germans are a different group. They're cut and dry. They are task oriented people, meticulous. You know, it's pretty cool seeing the different culture. It just adds to that story of 1684.
And it also adds to our story. I mean, we do not go down that straight path. It's just not us, you know. So
yeah,
you got to make your way somehow, and we tend to go off path quite a bit. And this really just kind of fit our story and what we're about, and learning and about the experience.
Yeah.
Phallyn, we've talked about contributing to our local communities. I mean, like, what was your vision, I guess, for the 1684 venue on how it would, contribute to the community? Or
so there's nothing like what we have in the state of Oklahoma, and especially on this side of the state.
Sure.
To be able to offer something this magnificent with the history behind it. We actually thought the history would probably be more on the forefront. Like, that's the exciting part to us.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily the most important thing to my clientele. But once they hear about it, then they get excited about it.
See it.
And they see it. So once that initial and they first see it, then they're like, what?
Yeah.
But I don't think that they really get that feeling whenever they first are learning about it.
Pictures.
Correct. And then the community, I mean, we've tried to have our open houses and invite everyone. You don't have to be a bride. You don't have to even want to have an event. Just come and be a part of it, and just come and see it, because it's really truly a magnificent building.
Yeah. With
so much history that we appreciate, and we just hope that we can convey it to our friends of the importance of it. So I guess just being able to offer a place like this to our community and the surrounding area, because it is luxurious as well. You know, it's luxurious. It's full of history, and
I will say it is unique.
It's unique.
It is very unique.
Probably the closest thing to it anywhere around. Probably got to go to the Big Bass Pro, top of the rock, and on Table Rock Lake up there to get anything close to it, you know. And that guy's a billionaire, you know. But we've got the view, and we got a really cool building. You know, it's not just the old original barn. That's the main hall.
Yeah.
It does.
Meshing new and old was a challenge.
Yeah.
It took a really good architect to marry the two together into something.
That's what I thought was really unique when I looked at the pictures, was
Yeah.
how you were able to kind of blend both
Right.
the new and the old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seamlessly put those two together,
And even though it was a barn in 1684, it doesn't stand as a barn today.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's timber frame.
Being able to get that message across that it is a living timber frame structure. It is not a barn.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some close friends that have seen a lot of pictures from us, obviously, and they came to one of the open houses, and they walk and they're like, didn't really know it was this big. 40-foot ceiling. You can't really grasp how tall a 40-foot ceiling is until you stand there.
Sure.
Those old barns had such steep pitch roofs for snow loads and things like that, and in the size of the beams, you get people are fairly quiet when they first walk in, which that's great. That's the effect we want.
Mm-hmm.
And the cathedral effect. You probably know there's not a lot of girls getting married in churches anymore.
That's true.
But
yeah,
we give them the cathedral feel.
Yeah.
They still get that feeling of a cathedral-like atmosphere. And
we live in Tenkiller and Eastern Oklahoma is rolling hills, very green.
Mm-hmm.
Tenkiller is a very deep lake, clear, crystal clear waters. The concept behind 1684 and the land that we purchased, we had to have the most perfect spot. And
that took the longest.
To find. We passed up on quite a few that they just didn't feel right. But when we found this piece of property, it just felt right. And so it was the most perfect spot. And where it is today, it is the most perfect spot. I mean, it's got a beautiful 180-degree view of the water. And we want people to come and enjoy the whole weekend. So whether if it's a wedding or if it's a concert or you're just hanging out with your family and you just want to come and see it, we want you to just come and relax and enjoy the peace and serenity.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Board meetings, a couple stints on the Braunvieh Association of America board, and we generally, rent the DoubleTree out in a room and pay a bunch of money for that. And why don't you come here? So, cattle associations want to have board meeting here. We got it. We got the board room, that you might have a hard time not looking out the window, paying attention, but sure. We offer that kind of stuff. Yeah. And, the community deal that you talk about, we just got told by our builder the other day that the Airbnb construction has shot up dramatically in the area because of what we built, because they anticipate housing people coming to visit. And that's great. It's
a good feeling to be able to bring that, and very humbling for sure.
Really is.
That's awesome. So what are your future plans? I mean, what do you guys, you've already proven to me, this isn't just it for you guys. You're going to cook something else up. I can see, but what's your aspirations for Four Kings and the venue moving forward?
I'll let you answer for Four Kings, but for 1684, it is just being able to be, obviously sustainable and offering something that everyone can enjoy, that also pays the bills though.
Sure.
And you want to be able to do it all, but it also has to pay the bills. So just being able to, manage, right? Because we do have our hands in lots of different things, and we both have full-time jobs and we'll continue to have full-time jobs, but also put forth the effort after the fact, to making our future, because the future of us is 1684 and Four Kings Ranch.
Yeah.
That's our future. That's what our end goal is, and we know that. So whether if we have to manage multiple different things right now for however long, then we will, because we know what our end goal is.
Yeah, you got to make the sacrifice. And our project with 1684 it's a lot of trickle down and what it's doing for everybody in the community. that same German lawyer we bought the building from, he came and stayed at a friend of mine's ranch for a weekend, brought his kids. They rode horses and gathered cattle. They now own a whole block in town and are restoring these buildings.
Really? That's cool.
The Europeans have a lot more. They don't like seeing the old stuff go to waste, which I don't either.
Yeah.
And just to think like, we're kind of the cog that made that happen. That's cool.
Yeah.
But with Four Kings Ranch, I would like to retire from the oil field in the immediate future. I guess if they keep deciding to give me money, I'll take it. But at some point, I'm 20 plus years in it now, and it don't hit like it used to. Just doesn't. I've missed a lot of my family's life because of it.
Yeah.
But it's that sacrifice for the end goal, and we're seeing some end goal stuff, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not pipe dream stuff like it used to be.
Sure.
I would like to see, on the hybrid deal and the Angus world, you get some yards that buy Braunvieh calves and they know they do good in the yard, but you got them guys that are going to clip you pretty hard, with the traditionals, and it happens to everybody, red ones and white ones and this and that. I'd like to have kind of the commodity deal, start buying commodities. I'd like to start feeding. I really do. That thing kind of fascinates me. We do it on a much smaller scale, but I kind of like to have a Braunvieh influence yard to give customers of ours a place to go if they don't buy that black bull. If they got, a mixed bag of colored cattle, but they're still putting out, good stuff and it meets the criteria, we'll feed them. We'll feed them. I'd really like to do that. And no knock on the Angus. They have outmarketed everybody, but it's going to take some efforts from guys and breeders that have some buyback programs, whether it be your particular breed or your customers. I'd kind of like to offer that, and that goes into that legacy deal. It'd be a pretty good legacy. And a really one of the bigger things that probably would have happened in our particular breed to give those people a place to go, this and that. They wouldn't be as apprehensive to buy that brown cow. They'd buy that brown cow as opposed to that black bull that we sell, so that's kind of my dream going forward with the cattle deal.
That's good.
We have two girls, a 17-year-old and a 9-year-old. So maybe one of these days they'll be able to take advantage of maybe something that we've done good.
Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what advice would you guys give farmers and ranchers that are contemplating? Maybe they've got a serene, beautiful place. They run cattle. They're thinking about putting a venue in, good and bad. Would you advise them to look into it? Is it worth the investment?
The answer is yes. Depends on what your meaning of investment is, right?
Sure.
Is it monetary or is it how it makes you feel? Kind of depends on their situation. But yeah, I mean, I think that easygoing people, hardworking, grit, that's what it takes. It doesn't matter if you're in the cattle industry or if you have a wedding venue. You have to absolutely love what you do. And if you are honest and you believe in the product that you are bringing to the table, it will be successful.
Yeah.
It will. So, I mean, I think it would be worth it. Yeah, I'd say yes.
She says worth it. That's probably I think the key takeaway in that whole deal is if you got a pristine ranch and you want to up your cattle game and this and that, or maybe dabble in entertainment and venue, whatever. I think it's got to matter to you.
Yeah.
It can't just be a deal like, well, I'm going to make me a buck.
Sure.
If you just think it's probably not going to work out for you if you just think it's going to make you a buck.
Yep.
It actually needs to matter. Like
Yeah.
it better matter to you, you
Well, that's
know?
what we've all been told that, you know, if you make decisions based on money, they're probably the wrong ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's correct.
You guys have proven you're passionate about both things, and it's neat what you're building. And
Thank you. Thanks.
I think you've got a sooner than later, you guys are probably going to end up retired working for yourselves.
Yeah. That'd be all right. Yeah. We might get to take some of those vacations.
Yeah, literally.
You probably got some social media friends that are always vacationing and all that stuff. And I'm like, how they do it? I know I can't do it. We
Married
actually
to the
went on a
cattle.
vacation last year. It was a little different.
First time in a while.
You know, first time in a while, but you still got to take some time for yourself.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you've got
There's got
to.
to be a little reward for all of it. But there needs to be a goal. You know, you say, what am I going to do with this beautiful place I got? You still need to reward yourself, but you got to understand that there is sacrifice. There really is. There really is.
Absolutely.
And there's got to be an end goal. And I think it can't be a haphazard venture into it. You need to have something kind of at the end of that tunnel you're staring at.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you for joining us
Yes,
today.
thank you.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. I mean, this has been really nice and really neat.
That's it for today's Your Ag Empire podcast. You can find us across social media at youragempire.com. If you feel so inclined, give us a review wherever you're streaming, or visit youragempire.com to visit our show notes. Be good or be good at it.